Welcome to another episode of the Nui Tech People Podcast, back again for another episode of the Tech Exec series. On today's episode, we have Oliver Shanahan, so Group Head of
Cybersecurity and Infrastructure at BetMakers Technology Group.
Thank you for helping me out with that one. A bit of a tongue twister. Yeah. Mate, for the audience who don't know who you are, I think you're probably one of the most technical technology leaders that I do know. Still stay technical, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's wheel it back to the start. Where's the journey start for you and your technology career?
Probably when I was young, like as a kid. I spent a bit of time growing up on the land, like without electricity, which is a bit odd, people think. But I think, and then my parents moved to a place called Hill End, which is out sort of between Bathurst and Mudgee. And that's when I saw the light, I guess, literally. And it's a funny way to put it. But yeah, so got in computers there. Not really computers. The first kind of computer coming back out in those days was like Commodore 64, that sort of stuff. So my cousins who we had moved in with had one of those. I managed to convince my parents to buy me one, and that's probably where it all sort of started. So
nice.
Yeah, so pre-personal computer days, pre-Macs really, or Apple IIes and those sorts of things. But that's what sparked my interest, I think, really, right at the start. I just had an absolute love for them straight away. And then I found out, about programming, I guess. So back on the Commodore 64 was, basic. So just learning to write code. Just I don't know, had a passion for that. Just being able to type things into the computer and have stuff come out the other side of it, essentially,
Yeah, I think your experience at Commodore 64, mine was different. I think I played Space Invaders. And that was my first experience of gaming or anything computers. So, mate, nice. So, obviously, technical from the get-go. It's an interesting career choice because sometimes we get tech leaders that didn't start out technical and then sort of came into that, and then other people that have just loved it from day one. Where'd that journey take you from there?
Just to probably jump forward a bit, I always went through high school. I did in my HSC, did computer studies, which was the first year it was offered in the HSC. But basically back then it was like the cooking class teacher reading out from a book and everyone just writing down what she read, basically. This is at Mudgee High School. Yule and Cole sponsored the computer room, so basically we had a whole bunch of 286 PCs, maybe a couple of Apple IIes or something like that, and I managed to convince the teacher to let people who could type fast enough just type back in what she was reading out. So improved my performance on the keyboard quite significantly, but it was good. It was a core foundation of just understanding, how things were sort of built and how it sort of structured. From there, came to Newcastle to study, did about 6 months of study, and then dropped out of that and went and got a job, basically. So I was working in a computer store out at East Maitland called Balin Computers. At this similar sort of time, we were playing around on bulletin boards. This is pre-internet days, obviously. So early days, dialing the bulletin boards, ended up getting to meet people in bulletin boards, help them out with their servers and their things and their hosting requirements, and that went on for a while. And then obviously the internet sort of the birth of the internet happened, and then me and a mate kicked off probably one of the second internet service providers in Newcastle.
Yeah.
It was called Crosslinks. It was like actually off the back of a security company here at the time.
Yeah.
So I ran. It was above. I think it was like Rundle's, a clothes place in town. On King Street there, or was it Hunter Street? Yeah, I crawled between the two levels, dragged the phone line cables, 20 pairs of phone line cables across to the front where the office was, and we had set up like a Linux Slackware box, Cyclades, multiple communication ports, then we had 15 Maestro modems, which were answering all calls, and we built out the whole basically authentication accounting system. Yeah, so
times have changed a little bit for you.
Yeah, much easier than that now. After that, got a job in a mining company in the IT side of stuff out at Maitland. A company was called Pulse Mining Systems.
Yeah, another Newcastle success story.
Another huge success story in Newcastle. Dave Dunlop used to be the sole director back then. Great guy. We always got along really, really well. So I got that job basically for word of mouth from my mate who I started the internet service provider with.
Yeah.
And then he was one of the smartest guys I ever met, but a little bit unpunctual, I guess. And so they fired him six months later. So I just got dropped everything. And at that point in time, we had like servers integrated on the mine sites for the ERP platform, managing everything from pit to port essentially, but also we had IT support contracts for about 5 mines as well, where we looked after everything they had, computers, servers, networks, that sort of stuff.
Mate, just on that part, being thrown right in the deep end, there's different ways. There's the whole, you can sink and swim, or you can, come into an environment, give it proper training and really built up. Mate, how do you think that sink or swim, being thrown in the deep end, do you think it helped you later in your career?
I think it definitely helped me later. Like I'm always more about like hands-on. If you have a passion for something, like you really like something, then like you get more excited about the opportunity that gets thrown in front of you. You don't really think about sinking. You just think about, I'm going to figure everything out I don't know and how it all works, and just run with it. So I've always sort of lived in that space, like in the tech sort of space, being on the sort of forefront, learning new things every day. Like I always want to know how everything works. Same time I was working at Pulse, we started another internet service provider, me and a guy called Coscom Solutions. We ran that for like 13 years. It was based out of East Maitland.
Yeah, wow.
So that was sort of a side business as well. We're sort of running, I guess, for a fair period of time. We did like PC network support, But even I think one of the foundations at Bailey Computers there in East Maitland, I worked there for I think 3 years maybe. I was building 20 computers a day, as well as fixing them, that sort of stuff as well. So I learned so much about hardware, and then took that knowledge forward into the mining sort of industry as well.
And I imagine those skills are still transferable today. Obviously, everything's in the cloud, but the same principles apply, right?
Yeah, the cloud's not like a magical cloud. Obviously, it's still data centers. Like I've worked in data centers. Like we can probably get to this down the road with TopBetta, but physical machines, bare metal in a data center. That really is what the cloud is. It's just got a layer over the top of it, which is providing access to services and a nice interface, a bit more scalability, automation. You have to worry about that sort of scalability yourself. Yeah, so,
mate, you just mentioned it there, and this is probably one of the more exciting parts and probably interesting for our listeners today. You mentioned the word TopBetta. You're probably one of only very, very few people I know who has been a founder of an organisation and helped build that technology from the ground up to a point where it was listed. Mate, TopBetta. How did the TopBetta story start? I'd love to hear about the early days of that.
Yeah, well, we've gone through a few name changes, as you obviously would know, but it all started, I've been at Pulse Mining Systems for about 10 years, 9.5, 10 years, which is like to the point of, getting long service and stuff. But then I had a mutual friend, her name was Sarah. She worked in like the ERP reporting sort of platform. And one of her good friends was Todd Buckingham, who was the former CEO of BetMakers. And he had this idea to build this tournament game over racing. So kind of like a online poker model over racing, basically. Everyone would chuck in a certain amount of, say $10 each. Yeah. The table being us to take a rake of 10%. So if there was 100 people in the game, we get $100. The rest of the money would go into the pool, and people would get given a microcurrency of 10 grand to bet across the meeting at Randwick or something like that. And so we built that, and we went into partnership with the TAB and ran a thing called Australia's Top Punter. And so we had this running over 3 to 4 weeks.
And you built this?
Yep. Me and a mate built it.
What sort of, how are we building that back in the days?
PHP, MySQL, just a lamp stack essentially.
Yep.
Running on dedicated hardware. In those days, it was Macquarie Telecom's data centre in Sydney.
Yeah, wow.
So I had my own servers in there. Purchased the servers, had a friend who worked there in the tech side, got them all racked and stacked essentially, and then built out the software on top of that. It was a pretty good learning curve as well. We had a couple of hiccups right at the start about dealing with it went way bigger than we thought it would.
Yeah.
So you had Johnny Tapp and on the radio, it was getting advertised everywhere. It was all over Sky Channel being advertised, Australia's Top Punter.
Yeah.
And so it ran over. It was 4 weeks. The people who won the tournament, got to go to the final, which was actually on course at Flemington. And so it was down there, they got to bet with real money. So people were turning, their $10,000 microcurrency into hundreds, $200,000, $350,000, more in this game.
Yeah.
And then got to the race course on the day, and everyone was scared to bet with real money, weren't they? So the person won had turned the $1,000 they had to bet with into like 3.5 or something like that.
Yeah, right.
So it was a change, but we learned a lot through that period.
Yeah.
And then then basically the regulators didn't know how to look at us. Were we a game of chance? Was it a game of skill? There's a very big difference in the outcome of that. So essentially we got pressured to, if we wanted to keep doing this particular product, because the idea was we build this product and we hopefully get it on all the betting platforms out there, just be a little embed widget type thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But basically we got forced into getting a bookmaking license.
Yeah.
So back in those days, it was out of Norfolk Island.
Yeah.
This is before the NTRC, like in Northern Territory Racing Commission, got big. So we got licensed in Norfolk Island. So I went through that whole licensing process. And then we went, okay, we need to build a whole betting platform now. So around the tech stack we already had, me and a friend basically built out a whole betting platform, got data feeds for racing, for sports. And we were called, it was Better Sports.
Better Sports.
I actually found a business card for that the other day, funnily enough, which is
Yeah, right.
really nostalgic to see. So we did that for a while.
How big's the team at that stage?
2.
2.
Me and another guy.
Yeah.
I did all the back end stuff. He did all the front end stuff, basically. I'm not a huge front end coding fan. Like CSS and things like that bug me. Like it's something that isn't, you're right, how it should be, and different browsers will interpret in different ways. It's always a bit frustrating. So I always looked after all the back end infrastructure, server side code, business logic. Essentially, I did some front end stuff when we needed it, and obviously that happened both ways because there's only 2 of us in the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got some more investments from family and friends. Like none of this would have happened without our family and friends investing in us and building us, and and the 2 other partners, founders Todd and Craig, they were former NRL player managers. So they ran a company called NSRT, which is Newcastle Sports Representative Team, and they managed about 30 first grade NRL players. And so to raise some capital, what we did was we basically took about 5% of the shares we had in the business, and we built like a tiered auction kind of system where people could jump on and buy them every time someone bought a certain allotment. Then the price will go up a little bit.
Oh, cool.
And we raised about $50,000 through some NRL players, through our family, through our friends, and that funded us for the next sort of, I don't know, 6 months maybe, or 5 months.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy. Like
bet.
the interest was there, but we still weren't really making much in the way of money, but we were learning a lot. And then I'm not sure.
Wait, quickly on that one. I think it's quite interesting for early founders as well. The whole there's some different mentalities out there where early founders are like, oh, I want to still get paid a decent wicket. I want to get paid a decent salary while I'm doing this. I'll raise a heap of money while still taking a big salary. And I know that bugs investors a lot of the time, as opposed to really going lean.
Yeah,
taking less
I think
salary.
I left the mining industry after 10 years. So I also had that side business called Coscom, which is internet service provider. So I was making some bank out of that, but it wasn't the wage I was making. But as soon as I left the mining industry, I knew every senior person in every mining company in Australia and a lot overseas. So as soon as I resigned, I could have got a job anywhere basically, because they all knew me and they all see me solve problems. So in the end, I just did some consultancy work here and there as well. So basically, if it was a rainy day, I'd do consultancy. If it was sunny, I'd go fishing and we'd build this up at night time basically. But I had Xstrata Coal, Hilland Gold, and a few other fairly large mining companies that would give me as much money, much hours as I want, really not doing anything apart from just advising them on how to improve the technology, the implementations, integrations, that sort of stuff. So I was lucky in that sense, but it was all built off, I guess, the relationships I built over the time.
So build a decent career, build a decent base, obviously a reputation for yourself. That gives you some flexibility to lean back on that consulting work when you need it. Yeah,
exactly. So it was good. And then I'm not 100% sure why. I think we just wanted a better name. No, it wasn't actually. We got forced. We couldn't use Better Sports anymore. I think it was because of Better Electrical or someone. It was like someone had a name like that, and the governing body for business names in Australia said, well, we're kind of treading on their name or something like that. So we had to make a change. I imagine Todd came up with TopBetta, and that's how we moved into that new brand.
Yeah.
And so we had that. We started building up a team. We were getting more clients, more punters coming on the platform because we're B2C at this point, right? Yeah. So we built up the team. We probably grew to a little bit too quick. We got to probably 20 to 30 staff. And being a small bookmaker is difficult. And to be fair, we probably weren't great bookmakers. Like I think it's odd being a bookmaker. It's like the opposite of being a punter, I guess. Like, so you'd be watching the races, cheering home the horses that had no money bet on them, essentially. You know what I mean? So it's kind of back to front. But you could have a really great week, really great Saturday, then someone comes in on Sunday and jags some crazy exotic and just takes everything you've earned away, basically. So that probably was part of the drive, which we'll probably get to, taking the company and getting it listed, because it's an opportunity to raise.
I'll stay on those points. There's 2 points there. We'll go back to Todd to start with. Mate, founding team, it sounds like you obviously had 2 technical people in Todd. Todd's not as technical, but is a...
just Todd and Craig, both like they're both the NRL player managers. So Todd is the ideas guy. Like I've never seen anyone like him really. Like he has a lot of ideas, not all of them great, but he has a lot of good ideas. And so I'd be sort of sounding board. I had my mate who was the other tech guy work with me. I brought in, and then Craig was more like just operations management, people management, if you know what I mean.
So that's where I was going with that as well. That the differences and the different skills that you bring into the table. Obviously, you brought the technical side, but you need that person to offset that ideas guy, the guy that's going to commercialize things, build partnerships as well. Is that, like, if you were to advise other founding teams or startup founders in trying to find that partner to go with to start with, is it finding complementary skill sets? Is it finding, hey, just double down on technology to start with? Like, what would your advice be?
I think it's an interesting concept. Like, we've done a lot of stuff that works and a lot of stuff that didn't work over the years. It's been a roller coaster. But with Todd and I, like, Todd didn't come with a technical background, but he has a maths degree. He's a PE teaching degree as well. So he's very sporty, but also smart as well. So the two of us had a pretty good complementary sort of thing. Like, we had some crossover, and the more we spent time together, the more like technical Todd became without being technical. He sort of started to understand the underlying tech, and then he could think about that with the ideas he was creating. So we would be together every day talking about things all day, any time of night.
Yeah.
Early morning phone calls when you thought of something, just bouncing things back and forwards. But I think it works really, really well. I think it's hard for any single person to have to know the full spectrum of things what you would need to know to get say something new and sort of risky into the market, especially in the tech space. Good ideas, good people, good contacts, and a good team is really important.
Yeah, I think so. I think that well-rounded skill set, right? And I think that's what investors look for these days as well. So, maybe the other part you just mentioned there is like you could build bank on a Saturday and then lose it all on a Sunday. Early days of small business, and I think that would break a lot of people. I think the mentality of not being able to sleep at night, you're losing money, you don't know where the next paycheck's coming from, how the business is going.
Yeah.
How do you deal with those early days? Because I'm sure there's times where you guys have had massive success and everyone's like, oh, sunshine and rainbows, you guys are so lucky. But not having seen those early days where I imagine there's sleepless nights.
Yeah, 100% sleepless nights. Yeah, like, we're trying to build something and grow it, and then, having to be sitting down, putting lines with people's names on paper. They're good people, good workers, because you can't afford to pay them. So, like, the business has to come first. The people who invested in the company, our family and friends, it was important that we looked after everyone and were, honest about what we could and couldn't do. It was certainly stressful, and I think in the industry we're in, it's probably most businesses don't suffer those super highs and losses like day to day, like, because we'll have an amazing day and the next day it was like just wiped out. So it definitely was difficult, but just good team, good strong team mentality. We had other side businesses going as well, which allowed us at least to keep paying our own bills, and and we had family and friends that would help with investment to allow us to keep growing just the idea and the product we were sort of working on at the time. But it certainly was stressful. I think everyone can stress out. I think for me, like, the working in a mining company was probably a big thing for me to learn how to deal with stressful things, because we go to like one of the mines up the Hunter Valley. We take the whole mine down to an upgrade of a physical bit of server that manages everything from pit to port. So you start at 10 o'clock at night. Every hour it's down $1 million.
Yeah.
And you have to get it up by morning. And the things that always go right, you're interfacing with all SCADA systems, drag monitoring systems, automated tool systems from the workshop, work orders, like to printers, to plotters, so every sector of the mine was being touched. So I think I learnt a lot from doing those late nights, and you just push through until you get it done.
Yeah, I think
that was good. That was good building. I think.
Yeah, I think it's come up a couple of times, commonality in your approach, where it's just like find that problem and find a way to make it work, even if that means it's going through the night.
I think that's what's good, I guess, with people. I guess like someone of my age that's been through lived tech and lived it from every layer there is, all the way through the whole OSI model. Every single layer I've touched, and I know. So I've always had a really good knack of I can see where a problem is. Like I can visualize the system in my mind and go, there's only so many points of failure, right? Yeah. And isolate where it is, And so that and being able to do that without being stressed out, definitely helps a lot. Yeah. But it comes with experience, Like I think a lot of the teams nowadays, people are building stuff and doing stuff, but they don't really know what's happening underneath the skin. It's just they're on the sort of surface layer essentially. So.
Yeah, I think that sort of feeds into another question I tend to ask people around that education side of things. Like, I think a common conception or common thought process around university degrees is the learning of core concepts. And if you do a university degree, or it could be learned on the job, but learning those core concepts is a really good foundation of which to build upon. And as you said, if you don't have those core concepts right, or if you haven't gone and lived and breathed it for 10 years, 15 years, then when you're just building something and you don't know where the points of failure are, you can't identify where those breakdowns are. Whereas if you've got that core foundational knowledge, it can be really beneficial.
It's an interesting point. Like, I don't have a university degree. I've learned. Also, in saying that, when I was running like the division in for Pulse Mining Systems, looking after our infrastructure and implementation of our ERP platforms, infrastructure integrated into a mine sites network, and also the IT contracts, I would rarely employ someone with a university degree. Back in those days, I just found that they just had these expectations, and without the work experience, I always tried to find people who lived it, who had a passion for it as well. I don't negate, there is great people out there who have degrees and stuff, but I think a good person with a degree is a person that also lives it as well. Yeah. Like what you're doing in your spare time.
Yeah. The degree is not the limited factor; it's the actual passion for it.
Yeah. I think
it's finding the devs that are building their own platform on the side.
Yeah, send me your GitHub. Send me something you've got. Show me something you're building as well. Like, that's always been the thing that excites me when I look to hire people in the past.
No, I like it. Mate, back to the TopBetta story. You're obviously building up with those challenges along the way. Team growth to 30. I'm sure that comes with its challenges because people management's difficult, especially for a small team to grow to 0 to 30 very quickly. Where's the story take you from there?
So this story's been going for a long time. So 13. Yeah. So with 13 years, we've been running for. 15th of December 2015 was the day we listed on the stock exchange.
And what brought around that decision?
I think it was we wanted to grow the business. Listing is a good way to raise capital, and that was probably one of the biggest drivers for it at the time. It was a lot of work, obviously, like a lot. And it was crazy. I remember on trying to get it filed, like the last hour we had, and having like the legal team like running down the road carrying piles of paperwork just to get it lodged in time so we could get through. But one of the biggest drivers was having our vessel to raise capital through and getting our name out there more as well, trying some more respect and more interest. Yeah. People can see what you're doing, that sort of stuff. In that public space, more credibility, like when we're talking to potential people doing deals with and that sort of stuff.
Nice. Was the journey much different after listing? I've talked to a few different founders who have found the journey of being a startup founder or a private company versus an ASX-listed company.
Certainly, I think the thing for us is probably a similar I talked about here as well. Like, we work we always have in a very regulated industry. Yeah. So we're already scrutinised. So we were licensed out of Norfolk Island. I'm not sure exactly when it was, but basically the government went, okay, no more licensing out of Norfolk Island. And so everyone had to migrate into one of the local operators, so Northern Territory Racing Commission, Racing Victoria, had to get relicensed. So that meant everyone had to go through a process again of getting approved. And they're pretty strict. So for NTRC, for example, you have to be audited against Annex A of ISO 27001. It's not the complete ISO 27001, but it is a large section of it around security and information system management. Information security management system, sorry. And so we went through that process as well. We helped other bookmakers like Ladbrokes and stuff move, because we were the first, TopBetta was the first one to move out of Norfolk Island to get approved.
Yeah, wow.
And so, but because we have that background, I think, of like being audited a lot, yes, being listed does change things a bit. You know, it comes to, you know, your quarterly reports, your 4Cs, all that stuff you got to do, which is a little bit out of my sort of role. But there is also the auditing of the company, which, you know, you have to, you know, I was always obviously a part of from the information security point of view. So it brought a lot more regulation, but we were kind of pretty used to being of dealing with that because of the regulated market we worked in already. So it wasn't as such as a bigger culture shock as it could be for someone outside of that sort of regulated industry.
Mate, the journey from zero through to ASX listing is obviously one part of your journey. You're obviously a B2C company at that stage. And I know you did make a big pivot to a B2B organisation, which also included a couple of acquisitions. Mate, let's talk through that journey, because I think that's quite an interesting one for any technology professionals building a company. Like, who is your market? Is there a pivot needed at some point? But they're also like acquisitions. What's that look like? What's the reasonings behind it? Some challenges. So,
yeah, I think that's I mentioned earlier. Like bookmaking was a pretty ruthless industry, and we never really got the scale of our clients of the right sort of waging appetite to ever be safe enough, if you know what I mean. We're competing against all the big names. You know, they have marketing budgets, you know, more than we get turned over on our platform, you know what I mean. So we really were no chance of competing. So we sort of made a decision to get out of the bookmaking game and pivot from B2C into B2B. And the way we did that was there was basically two companies in the industry, one called Dynamic Odds, which is a trading tool that most of the bookmakers trading teams used. Like, it basically was a table visualising the odds in the market from all bookmakers around Australia and around the world. So that tool, and then the second thing was a company called Global Betting Service that was providing all the racing data to the bookmakers. So we were listed on the stock exchange at the time, so we raised money and we bought both those companies. I believe it was for 10 million each.
Yeah.
And so basically we try to take over the other side of the tooling and the data feed sort of side of the market and try to sort of monopolise that area. And so rather than being worried about how much money we make on the book at TopBetta, we basically straight away invoicing every betting company, corporate bookmaker in Australia, TAB, a whole bunch overseas every month, guarantee without any risk.
So more of a data play than actual B2C play.
Yeah, exactly. We improved on those services, we rebuilt those services, we value added to those services as well. So we already had these integrations. You know, like the data feed was a really good one because, you know, these bookmakers had a single point of integration with data being normalised from all the rights holders around the world. You know, so it would be like Racing Victoria or Rice, what they call back then. PMU, French racing, UK racing, US racing. We had a data feed from all the rights holders. We could then give it to the bookmakers that, you know, based on the licenses they had to have the rights to have that data, and deliver it in a normalised format to them. And so then we started value adding. We brought in more feeds, we brought in extra rich content, and we were able to upsell, you know, to those existing clients that had already done the integration work already, and it wasn't anything extra effort for them to do anything.
What does that integration look like? I imagine when you're buying a data company and then you're having to integrate that with everything you've already got. How many data points are we talking about? What does that process look like? Is that a difficult process?
We purchased a company that already had the integrations with the bookmakers already.
Gotcha.
And we had integration with them with TopBetta as well. So data points is like millions and millions and millions, like tens of millions a day. Like, not even thinking about pricing, which obviously fluctuates ridiculously. It is a major job, but you know, when you acquire companies, there's also you buy tech debt, which I'm sure, you know, most of your listeners would be pretty acutely aware of seeing and dealing with. And so we then had to kick off a journey basically we need to bring this up. Like the system worked, but it wasn't really scalable. It was getting pushed to its sort of boundaries already.
Quick question on that one. That due diligence project, I imagine from your side, when you're looking at another company, you're looking at tech debt. If another company out there was looking at purchasing another company, looking at tech dev due diligence, any advice that you'd provide anyone in that situation?
I think the key thing is to know what you want. Like, what are you going to get? What's your expectations? What are the key sort of metrics that you key data you need, or the key functionality you require to get out of this? And is that in place today?
Yeah.
And and on top of that, what is your goal to do with that data points, or those key bits of functionality? Are you going to grow on them, expand on them? Is it just a set and forget? And if it's something you're going to grow on, then is what's there scalable?
Yeah.
What documentation do they have around it? What knowledge is there? Because one of the biggest issues with buying anything legacy or from someone else is, how does it work under the hood?
Yeah.
How is it built? Is it built to best practice? Is it like today's best practice, or is it still like a decade ago's best practice?
Yeah.
And does the way it's been built mean it's like a big monolithic application, or is it sliced and diced up nicely so you could potentially horizontally scale it maybe? The stuff we bought was probably didn't have much of an opportunity for horizontal scaling. It was all about really just throwing more compute or memory at the thing, like vertically scale it. But we were aware of that as part of our process, and we knew that was okay for this point in time. We knew we knew where it was in the scheme of the instance types you get from AWS at the time, for example. We knew we could push it harder, and we knew we could break out pieces of it if we wanted to, just based on the information we got. But it all comes down to documentation. And we also, with those two acquisitions, we kept the founders of those two companies on as well, for years, which was a really big thing, because without that, some of these things are kind of like a black box. You don't really know what's there, even if you think you do. Until until something hits the fan, you really don't know what's there, because they're the ones who've been dealing with the same as like we had with TopBetta. When you've seen something before, you know how to address the problem. But if you don't know what's happening, it is very hard to isolate where that point of failure is. So keeping the key players from each of those acquisitions on board as staff was a really, really valuable thing for us.
Yeah, I think it's really good advice. Mate, and you've gone there, you obviously made your two acquisitions, and then you've scaled more as well from that B2B side of things. And grown that. This is
probably the next two things I'll talk about kind of come sort of just before and just after COVID. So just prior to COVID, we started looking at doing an acquisition of a company in the US. Well, they're a US company, but they're run in Europe and UK as well, and they're called Sportech. And so basically, globally, there's 5 or 6 major tote companies. Obviously, one in Australia that everyone knows is the TAB.
Yeah.
Then you've got like Amtote, United, Sportech. I mean, there's one other one. I can't think of what they're called. But they're the biggest tote players like globally.
Yeah.
And so tote betting is what you see, like the TAB here. They've got betting terminals on the racetracks. In Australia, they've got a 99-year monopoly on it. No one else is allowed to have betting terminals in a shop or on the racetracks. Overseas, it's a little bit different. No one has those golden handshakes, essentially. But so we ended up acquiring this company called Sportech.
Yeah.
So that company had 300 plus staff globally, most of them in the US. A lot of them field service operators that are out on racetracks with soldering irons, fixing these old legacy betting terminals. It was with that acquisition, we got a lot of tech debt, but we also just wanted to get into that space and knew that with the data we had and the other things we're doing here in Australia, and probably one thing to add to that, like Australia in the wagering industry is probably 10 years ahead of anyone in the rest of the world.
Really?
UK is probably 5 years behind us, and US is probably 10 years behind us. So what's happening here in Australia is like a blueprint basically for how things get rolled out around the world. And because we'd lived and breathed that Australian regulator market in wagering, we knew we could take that kind of model and that blueprint and use that overseas as well. So we acquired that company. That was right before COVID. So we basically couldn't get overseas and look at it very well, even though we'd done as much due diligence as we could. But prior to the acquisition, we really couldn't do much. We actually couldn't really open the bonnet until we could get over there. But travel,
you weren't allowed.
Yeah, we got over there once, and basically it was me, Todd, and Craig, and Dallas, were the guys who worked for us. We had to jump on a flight 3 days earlier, and we landed back in Australia the day before they shut the borders.
Wow.
So that's how tight it was. So we hadn't got opportunity to see as much as we wanted to speak to the people we wanted to. It's being such a big company, there's silos of different people and
Yeah.
looking after different things we had no sort of real idea about. And so then we're back in Australia, and so one of the other byproducts in the racing industry in Australia is that Valeni's kept NRL running and horse racing going. Genius, really.
Yeah.
Have that happen. And so the issue was on the racetracks, all the on-course bookmakers couldn't go. There's no patrons. They can't take bets anymore.
Yeah.
And so Todd, through his contacts, or maybe even current CEO Jake, I'm not sure who it was exactly, all of a sudden we had all these on-course bookmakers, and someone at BetMakers said, "Oh, we've got an old betting platform. We could use that." And so
You send that out.
2 or 3 years down the road, we had 35 betting platforms using our TopBetta betting platform.
And this is the betting platform that you built many years before.
Yeah. This is a betting platform that was built to run on bare metal, like a data center in Sydney, like Bulletproof, I think it was called. So we had... We got to the point of, prior to us moving out of the B2C industry, we actually got to... And we sliced up a little bit. It was a monolithic PHP application, though. We could slice up some things. We could start using, RDS clusters for the database layer, Redis clusters. We could create some auto scaling groups for some of the front end code, but it's really just like Dockerized monolithic chunks of code.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really an efficient solution. It wasn't like a multi-tenant cheap platform. Every one of these betting sites required the whole lot of infrastructure, their own data feeds. It was like, but it was pretty crazy, and that caused the team to grow out a lot again as well, because we had to, SRE and people, support teams to actually
support each one of those 30 instances.
So it was like we built, we used like New Relic platform for observability, but still, it was just like cookie cutter instances of the same thing.
Yeah.
Not an ideal way to do it. Probably put on way too many than we should have. I think we had some teams just signing up betting platforms probably shouldn't have been signed up. Whatever. That's where we got to.
Yeah.
But we sort of got back into using this old platform, which was built 10 years earlier, not really fit for purpose. And so, the course of the last 12 to 18 months, we rebuilt the whole thing from scratch.
How do you go about that? Because I think there'd be a lot of people out there that find that quite interesting. You've got a monolithic...
Number one thing is you tell everyone who's using the old platform, you're not getting any updates or anything until we roll a new platform out, because that is an issue. If you try and keep 2 streams of work going without having and this work you're doing over here, it has no real value yet until it has value when it's launched, right?
Yeah.
And when it's launched, it has great value because it takes away the fixed base cost of these cookie-cutted betting platforms.
Yeah.
A good team. We had a fairly large team.
And did you go back and you architect that from the ground up?
So some of the guys that I hired I sort of moved out of the space of running the development teams. Went more into infrastructure because we've grown so big and global. But one of the guys I hired originally, I believe, through you, and another guy I'd hired off LinkedIn, they head up the head of engineering and basically his right hand man.
Yeah.
And collectively we talked about architecting stuff for the cloud properly. So really having cloud native solutions, proper scalable solutions.
Yeah.
And what we have today, I think we launched it 6 months ago or so now. We've migrated 37 or the 35 platforms we had have been migrated over to this platform.
Yeah.
One nice multi-tenant platform, scales beautifully, runs cold. Cost probably the same it would cost to run 4 or 5 of the old ones.
Yeah.
So that was a big journey. But having the right people was key, and having just a clear pathway. Not having to worry about supporting the legacy system. So we sort of isolated. We had a support team still over here. We had so they'd look after the old legacy platforms.
Yeah.
But the key developers that needed to be outside the ones who would support legacy stuff, they had clear focus.
Yeah.
So just no interruptions to build it out.
It's 2025 now. What tech stack did you go for building this?
Kubernetes.
Yeah.
So just GKE, persistence layers, Mongo, messaging bus, Kafka.
Yeah.
Some GPRC stuff, but back end codes all Go.
Yeah.
Front ends, React, JavaScript, native apps.
Beautiful.
So now we have 35 betting platforms running off this multi-tenant platform. Each have their own individual native iOS, Android apps. It's a full stack platform as well as an embed platform as well. We have customers overseas in various countries with just the racebook widget embedded on their platform.
So you can slice and dice it, you can customize
it. It's customizable per client. They can
Yeah.
do things they want. They can drag and drop. It's got, it's...
And you're dealing with tens of millions of data points a day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's quite crazy. It's good to see.
Yeah.
It's good to see that my baby actually is dead now. Well, it's not quite nearly. There's still 2 platforms out there, legacy platforms, which will be migrated off soon, but they're in... One's in Jamaica and one's in the US.
Yeah, right.
So they've had some custom work done to them, which hasn't been moved across into our multi-tenant platform yet.
Beautiful.
But will be.
Yeah.
So,
I guess your key piece of advice there was to really, hey, we are moving across, all the focus, all the engineering's going towards the new platform, just keep the lights on with with the support. Any other pieces of advice for other organisations that might be having to rebuild a monolithic app or update, upgrade, build for scale?
Make sure you have the people with the right skills.
Yeah.
A lot of people using Kubernetes clusters now, right? But a lot of people really don't know how they work, underlying how it works, and you get caught out. So having people with the right skills, the right training, well worth doing. Linux Foundation training across Kubernetes is probably one of the best training courses. Anyone should do it. Yeah. Without a doubt. They've got the Kubernauts programs, do 4 Kubernetes certifications, and there's only about 2,000 people in the world have got them. Yeah. Having that knowledge underlying, if it suits, look at Mongo over SQL. Mongo is unbelievable. Scale fast, it's one of the most amazing things I've seen in probably a long time. It was the first thing I've seen in tech for a while. Outside of Kubernetes, I just went, wow, okay, this is done very well.
Beautiful. Nice. Mate, we've talked about data points there in a significant part. Obviously, you strong infrastructure background, highly regulated industry. We're talking security now. How has that journey been for you? Obviously, you've mentioned it's highly regulated industry. You've sort of had to be up to date with security your whole career. But is that something that you obviously continue to prioritize, continue to upskill in? Obviously, when you're running a listed company, you're talking about tens of millions of data points. Is that something, obviously security is a big issue for any software platform at the moment? Yeah,
it's massive. And it's ongoing. It never ends. It's a battle, just 24/7 basically. Not only we're a listed company, I think about 3 years ago, September, we got the company ISO 27001 certified.
Yeah.
So that means you have to have a really good information security management system, processes. It is a tough certification to achieve. If you do it the right way, there is ways you can get around it, but to do it properly, it is a very tough certification, and it puts in good processes and practices, and keeps you on top of things. You get recertified every year. We're coming up. September this year, we're going to be recertified against the new version, which is 2022. The old version is 2013, so you can imagine it's a little bit outdated. Yeah. So that's been a really useful thing. But it's, we're under cyber attack 24/7. Yeah. So, having the right, having stuff built the right way, using the right tools, SaaS and DAS stuff in your CI/CD pipelines, is automating as much of that security stuff as you can, that visibility, whether using vulnerability scanning, like we use the GitLab Enterprise, for example. Our images, our code is all scanned on every run. If something fails, it won't get released. They're just little things like that. Security awareness training as well. Yeah. Having developers regularly undertake security awareness training, best programming practice in that space as well. Yeah. Having the IDEs run scans as well, so before they get into your pipelines.
So you're saying it's from top to bottom of your tech team. It's not just the security.
It's not even just tech team. We have we have training sessions for all our staff globally all the time. We send out awareness emails and Slack messages every 2 weeks. Yep. Anything major comes up, like a Qantas breach or anything like that, we talk about it to the wider community or the wider audience of our staff. Yeah, just to make them aware of the risks, what you're likely to see happening now. So and obviously running proper security, mobile device management platforms on each end users' devices, setting a nice perimeter where there's not doors open all over the place. Yeah. You have a perimeter that's secure, and it's the same for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an ongoing thing, and it's driven heavily and strongly by our board as well. It's very, very important. We have PII information as well. Obviously, the risk of the laws in Australia have changed recently. The fines have gone through the roof post some of the breaches that happened through insurance companies and telecommunications companies. The fines are like tenfold now. So losing people's private information would be, could break a lot of companies very easily. For sure. So we take it very seriously. We work through Europe and UK and stuff. So GDPR. US has its own privacy laws as well, so staying up to date with all those things is it's a never-ending job for us. Just really just stay on top of that and be aware and watch our systems, make sure you have the right tools in place. Yeah, and the key is just watching and staying up to date.
Yeah, staying up to date brings us to the conversation around AI. So I think you've made mention today a couple of times, right? Having that really deep technical knowledge has set you up for success. You understanding the fundamentals behind it, of which, you can then rebuild something, rebuild it the right way, break things apart where you need to, carve off what you need to, rebuild, refactor. Those core understandings, I imagine, put you in a really good spot to then have a look at the latest and greatest tools and see how they might fit into your stack or fit into where you might be able to get the most value out of them. We'll start with how are you currently using AI within your team, and then I want to break into sort of how you personally staying up to date.
I think we do a lot of ML stuff we have for ages. Like obviously ML is not AI, but we do a lot of that from our rating systems. Like we offer like enriched tipping services, that sort of stuff. From the AI space as a business, we leverage it for generative AI for writing form and race tips and stuff. In platforms we sell that via our Race Lab brand around the world. That's probably one of the main areas used from the product perspective. We've got a couple of things in the pipeline now with our new multi-tenant platform, which I can't talk to you about. Yeah. So you watch our platforms and you'll see that what's coming up there. But you can see what bookmakers are doing. You see what Sportbet's doing now. So that's the way the market's going to go, without a doubt. With their what's going to win the next race, so and so, that sort of stuff. But there also is a concern, how good does a bookmaker want it to be too? So you need to be obviously cautious from that perspective. The other side of it, I guess, is around as a software development company in some respects, or in a lot of the respects, we leveraging that when it comes to like from a coding perspective, just checking stuff as well. But we're also very strict on it as well. Like my advice at this point in time, like if you're using like AI, great. POC startup type stuff, I would be very cautious of putting any business logic or back end code in it. I think it's brilliant for front end stuff. Yeah, you can scaffold out stuff amazingly, but you don't want to give away the brain of your or business logic of your application or something like that. Like it's not. If you just go grab something off the shelf, like Cursor, like idea is like unbelievable. Yeah, like it's one of the best. Even like Copilot now, they've all come so far, like leaps and bounds over the last 6 months. They've got privacy policies and they say they won't use data, whatever. But realistically, if you're sending your data out there, you do not know where it's going, like without a doubt. And that's where I think it's really important for businesses now that are going to heavily rely on that or put any of their intellectual property into systems like that they have the proper guardrails and processes in place to make sure that that the intellectual property is not going out there for everyone to see. Yeah. And that can be from, like as a lot of businesses are already doing, running your own LLMs like locally, so you don't send anything out to the real world. Whether it's running locally on a dev machine or an isolated environment in your own cloud accounts or whatever. But that's my advice in our direction in our business. We're very cautious about our use of it, because we understand that our bread and butter is our intellectual property. Like this multi-tenant platform we build is very important and it's very good, and we certainly wouldn't ever want someone to drop the code base in a Cursor and just pay for a public account and start using it. Yeah. So we have things in place, policies, procedures, staff have training and have been told what they can and can't do. They sign off on what they need approval, management approval to do things, and so which is all part of our information security management system as well, like protecting our assets. It's super important. So we use it a fair bit, but in places we're comfortable with, and we'll continue to leverage it probably more and more once we put systems in place that have proper guardrails around it, and then we'll test it, make sure we're comfortable with it, and then potentially we'll roll out further to leverage it. Because without a doubt, it's amazing. Like, you want to build something quickly. If you
Talk about that, mate. You're obviously, as I've said at the start, I think you'd probably be one of the most technical C-level tech professionals I know. I imagine you're playing with these tools on the side to keep yourself abreast of what's out there. Obviously, if you've got your team that are coming to you with the ideas, you want to be on top of them and ensure that you struck me as someone that's abreast of most of these technologies.
As I said, I think most of the good people have a passion for it anyway. So if I'm not working BetMakers, I'm still doing something, right? I have an interest. I sit on the couch, like streaming some TV, but I'm still got my laptop on my lap, and I'll be looking at some sort of new tools. And there's heaps of cool new tools around there. I've got a few side projects going on, building out some stuff. Some of the platforms are out there now, like nearly full stack, are out of control. And if you know how to ask it, the question the right way, a really structured question, like I'll end up using, I'll build out an idea, I'll go to ChatGPT, chuck it in for a reasoning model, and say, I want you to write this exactly the way that this other platform wants to use it, and how it would want to be asked, and then take that and just drop it into the other platform. And it's amazing what those things can spit out.
Yeah, I think that days of they're building a POC or building that MVP level with this is obviously going to change things up.
Oh, without a doubt. I think it already is.
Yeah.
I think one of the key, we sort of mentioned this before in our own chats, but that's the thing I think we have to be cautious about. Like, anyone can build anything now with these tools, really. But the issue is they're not built for scale.
Yeah.
Even if it was built securely, and you for me, I don't ask these platforms to do anything I couldn't do myself.
Yeah.
And people I work with, they're the same. They know what the right answer looks like. They know if it's secure. They know if it. If you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the concern. And even if you build a secure platform using it like an AI tool, full stack engineer, whatever, it's probably not going to be built to be fully crazy scalable.
Yep.
It might be small to mid-size, but it won't be totally scalable as if you were to build something yourself.
Yep.
So I think that's the cautious sort of approach we have to take. Is that people are building stuff that, yes, is a proof of concept, MVP, but it's not a scalable solution that can grow into a market.
Yeah,
so it's fit for purpose or not, obviously, but
and I think where it really, as you said, where it really serves purposes is for those entrepreneurial type people to try to see if there is a product market fit, and you can get something to once you've got that and you're looking at potentially raising some investment, and then hey, I've got to get a proper CTO or proper engineering team to actually build this out for scale. Yeah, I think that 0 to 1 stage is where it's most valuable.
I agree 100%. It's really good for that. My advice is just make sure that if use it for that, but if you're going to the next level, just make sure you know what you've got.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, and make sure you something is as scalable as you need it to be, and as secure as you need it to be as well.
I think that probably comes from a head of infrastructure and security background as well, right?
Yeah, I've always been in security from early days of the internet to I used to run all different levels of Cisco routers, and I spent my time in the terminal more than anywhere else. There's not many tools I use. I don't know what happens under the hood.
Yeah.
If I'm using Git, I'm in the terminal.
Yeah. And when it comes to this, so for advice for junior engineers or somebody who's trying to grow a technology career, how do you stay abreast of these technologies? It seems like part of it is playing with these new tools. Part of it is getting under the hood. Is it playing? Is it getting involved, getting your hands dirty, or is there other educational forms that you use, that you go to, books, podcasts, blogs? How do you go about it?
I probably don't read or listen to as much as I should. I'm more just a hands-on guy.
Yep.
But that works, I think, for me because of my experience.
Yep.
I think if you're greener and you're new, finding good podcasts, speak to people in the industry, with your peers or who are more senior than you, your friends, whatever, and find out what are the good podcasts in that particular sector of technology you're interested in. And listen. Podcasts are great. If you have to travel anywhere, have a podcast on. Don't listen to the radio or Spotify. I think it's definitely worthwhile if you're greener to research stuff like that.
Yeah.
For me, I get exposed to a lot of stuff through work, through my side projects, through friends. I'm living it every day.
Yeah.
So I tend to stumble across it, or someone tells me about something, or if I don't know, it's like, oh yeah, I saw that last week.
And you go play
There's
with
a couple of email things like TLDR.
Yeah.
I get a couple of things like that. They're worthwhile having drop in your inbox.
Yeah.
But
until you sign up for 4 of them, and then your inbox gets flooded every day.
yeah, it turns into like Temu email.
Yeah, I've done that. Just to continue down that AI route to finish up, mate, what do you see happening in those next 3 to 5 years? Obviously, we're talking about agentic AI coming. I think ChatGPT released something this week with their new agentic version coming down the line. Where do you see biggest changes in software engineering in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think it's already happening, like in the tooling that people use, the IDEs. I think Amazon just released something the other day as well with agentic AI for developers as well. You said ChatGPT. Yeah, there's a lot of new tools, which means there's going to be a lot more stuff in the market coming out faster and faster. Then these tools will be used to build more tools. Okay. Yeah, I've honestly, it's very hard to predict where we're going to go. I think it's just my biggest concern or my biggest thoughts around is just I hope things are secure. And we don't have all this stuff out there in the world just being, used in botnets or other crazy things like people's lights and fans being to DDoS platforms and things like that. It's just a crazy space we're in right now. It's really hard to predict, I think.
Yeah, nice. And I think it also comes back to the start of your journey as well, where you're staying really technical and new things coming to market, but having that founder or having that co-founder alongside you that can help commercialize something. I think that's going to be a big difference going forward because, as you said, there's going to be a lot of great technology out there, but there'll be a lot of overlaps. And how do we differentiate? How do we actually break into market? It's going to be a real challenge.
It's going to become very saturated very quickly, and so VC funds and that sort of stuff are going to have to start being way more cautious than they are for the next newest and best idea or the greatest thing.
Nice. Mate, key topic out of today, I guess, for me is probably that passion for technology, the fact that you've stayed technical throughout your career. And obviously that you lean into that when you're looking to hire and build your team. So I'll take that as the key piece of advice we can give to listeners who are trying to progress their careers, especially to stay technical and get in those heads of security, heads of infrastructure roles. So I like it. Appreciate your time.
No worries at all, James.
Mate, for anyone that wants to question you or wants to maybe challenge you on Mongoverse SQL or wants to reach out to you for your opinion or experience on maybe something they're going for at the moment, what's the easiest way for people to get in contact?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn is probably the best.
Yep. No worries. We'll link that up in the show notes and then
easy.
Reach out. So appreciate your time again today.
No worries, mate. Thanks very much. Always a pleasure.